Some conclusions on the assessment of the situation in the Avdiivka area. On the Donetsk direction, the enemy command continues its attempts to successfully complete the operation to encircle the Avdiivka Defense District of the AFU. However, they have some difficulties in maintaining the dynamics and intensity of attacks simultaneously on several areas and directions, which play a key role in continuing the offensive. After all, this requires the availability of a sufficient amount of forces and means capable of carrying out such actions for an extended period. Fresh formations are needed, shelves, brigades, in extreme cases, battalions and companies. And it is precisely here, precisely now, and for a sufficiently long time. The Russian command has planned to move its forces from the Bakhmut direction to the Avdiivka direction, to the area of the village of Marinka, and has introduced units of the Volunteer Assault Corps into the battle in the Avdiivka industrial zone. Also on Avdiivka direction the enemy has in reserve at least 3 motorized rifle regiments, 7 rifle and motorized rifle reserve battalions, as well as up to 3 volunteer battalions. Therefore the question arises, why move 2 brigade-level formations from one active direction at once, because from the formal point of view there are enough forces and means concentrated near Avdiivka. Or Avdiivka is more important for the adversary than Bakhmut, or for accomplishing the assigned task in the Avdiivka area, the enemy needed additional forces and means to maintain the pace of the offensive. Therefore the Russian command decided to redistribute them in favor of some, at the expense of others. I think one doesn't rule out the other. But the desire to attack simultaneously in many directions can play a cruel joke on the enemy. No one has ever cancelled the principle of concentration in the art of war. Of course, it is quite possible to attack on a wide front, with significant forces, and at first glance it looks very attractive and effective. But this becomes a very important and painful problem, when it does not bring results, or brings little results. In such a scenario, your strike forces may continue to incur significant losses without yielding any dividends. In this case, the enemy is forced either to reduce the scope of his offensive, gradually narrowing it along the front, or to reduce the intensity of his attacks, as well as the size of his forces and means. At Avdiivka we are now witnessing an attempt by the Russian command to maintain the planned scope of its offensive, including by moving additional combat-capable units to this direction, even at the expense of other active sites and directions. But I think they will soon face another hard necessity: they will have to increase the operational pauses between attacks, as well as the time needed for additional manning. Eventually, the enemy will have to abandon the strategy of immediately and everywhere and switch to alternating attacks in specific areas and directions. At the moment, the Russian commanders believe that they still have enough forces and means to conduct the offensive with the desired pace and scope. However, the first signs of a changing situation are already being observed.